Okay, folks, welcome to Smart Living. I'm so excited to have my guest, Angela Johnson, who is one of the co-founders of Fabric, which is this wonderful organization that basically, if you're in the apparel business or have thought about it or dreamt about it, they will help you get from concept to actually making your design real, touchable, and wearable. So, Angela, welcome to Smart Living.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to have you. So, first of all, what does Fabric actually stand for?
Ooh, it's an acronym. It stands for the Fashion and Business Resource Innovation Center. It's a mouthful, but
it is.
It's kind of cool.
So we'll just call it Fabric.
Yeah, there you go.
That really is. I wonder how many years it took you to come up with that acronym.
Actually, that was like the very first thing we did.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's so crazy. Okay, so I just went to an event that you're having, a monthly event that you're having, basically talking about what you do, and I was completely blown away. And I was like, Angela, you have to come on my podcast, because not only are you a fashion designer, an award-winning fashion designer, if I read my notes correctly, and we want to talk about that, but also you took your passion and turned it into something that will allow other people to be able to live their passion. So we'll talk about you and your career, but let's talk about Fabric, what you do for the community, and how this is smart for everybody.
Awesome. Okay. Well, do you want me to just kind of start explaining what this is and kind of start from the beginning so everybody has an understanding of what it is, and then maybe get into how it was created?
Perfect.
Okay, perfect. All right, so it's a fashion incubator. We're actually a nonprofit, 501c3. The reason we are a nonprofit is because we're trying to do things that you don't find out there in the industry normally. And so because of that, we're going to do some things that really most people wouldn't be able to pay for or even acknowledge or understand that they need in their life in order to start a fashion business. And so we're probably going to lose money doing some of these things.
Right.
So the concept was we need to be able to survive and actually offer these very scarce resources to people and still be able to pay our bills. So that's why we chose to be a 501c3. So I'll tell you a little bit more about what those resources are in a minute. But the idea is that if you have no prior knowledge, if you've never graduated from design school, or even if you have, which, you know, when you major in fashion design, they don't teach you everything. They don't teach you how to get through apparel production management. They teach you how to do the actual cutting and draping and pattern making and stuff. And you're not the one doing that when you're, you know, running a business that's making clothing that's getting manufactured by other people.
Right.
So so basically when you come to us and you know nothing and you have no prior experience, you can get through the complexities and the obstacles that are in apparel production management, apparel manufacturing.
Okay.
There's a lot that it actually takes to start a clothing brand, to start any business. So first you have all those hurdles of starting a business, branding it, doing all the regular stuff, which you can find help with that almost anywhere. I mean, there's so much help out there for that kind of stuff. But there really isn't any help out there for now it's time to design something and get it through the sample making process. So you have prototypes and that you have all of the backup to that prototype, the intellectual property that allows you to actually now replicate that prototype in a manufacturing setting. So patterns, tech packs, a sew-by sample with the exact seams and wholesale fabrics and everything is really the goal. So we get you through that, and then we get you through actually manufacturing. And the thing that we really specialize in is manufacturing with no minimums. So instead
and that's the key. That's what gets people not able to live their dreams or foresee it. It's because of those minimums. You have to have a lot of money.
Well, yeah. I mean, the industry is actually set up for giant quantities and overseas factories, and they're most likely sweatshops. And the reason it's this way is because us as consumers, we want our clothing to be cheap. So we're speaking with our money, and the brands are basically forced to make giant quantities in a sweatshop in order to get it to be cheap enough. And that's the model. It's been that way for decades. And so the fashion industry is one of the most polluting industries on the planet because all these brands end up with excess inventory, and they really can't sell it all anyways. They have to make 100,000 units of something, but then there's not that much demand because it's usually a generic product. And so they end up with excess inventory that gets burned or put in the landfill. And most fashion is also made out of polyester or man-made materials, which is plastic, and it doesn't biodegrade. So that's why it's so broken. And it doesn't allow for a small brand to enter the industry because there's so many barriers when you're working with overseas factories. First of all, language barriers, time delays, import fees, intellectual property issues. And so our whole goal is to keep everything domestic so that somebody can actually get through making it here and keeping it here and doing it in small batches. So
right, and that's the key. No minimum. So they can just make like one dress or 10 dress or for one specific customer, but actually get to do it. And that's what's so great about this.
Yes, because then they can test the market. And if it takes off and like they need to make more, they've got everything they need to go to a factory that specializes in what they are making so they can get a cheaper price point. So if they do scale, you know, they've got all of that prepared. So that's our goal. And then we also thought, you know what? Since we're going to be doing that, let's provide everything else that somebody would need under one roof. And so you can really come to Fabric and get everything. I mean, there's office spaces, there's event space, there's a wholesale sourcing library, there's classes, there's branding services, business services. I mean, you name it, we probably actually do it there.
Plus you have sewing machines.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the biggest thing. And
but one of the other things that you have is also what you're showing me when I went to go visit it. I did a video of your facility. And you have these gigantic printers. Those huge printers actually print off of the fabric, right?
Yeah. So basically, it's one printer, believe it or not. It
Sorry.
looks like a few because it's so big. And
Okay,
there's so many
one
parts
piece
to it.
and
so
it's separate, and then the other. Okay, so there is
it's one giant thing. And the reason that thing is so special is because when we started back in 2016, when we opened Fabric and we kind of started doing this for people, we were using all the regular analog resources, and that means everything is kind of done by hand the way it still is in the fashion industry. Fast forward to today, and we've invested in tons of technology that allows us to do things that even the big brands can't do. We do on-demand, what we call it batched on-demand, because it's more affordable to do a batch of individual items as opposed to one at a time.
Right.
But this batched on-demand manufacturing you can't get anywhere else, and it's really, and especially if you're a small brand, and it's it's enabled because of that printer. So first of all, the printer is a sustainable printer that uses no excess water. It uses eco-friendly dye stuffs, so the inks. It prints like your inkjet printer at home. Basically, it allows us to make one at a time or a batch at a time, whatever you want, on a sustainable fabric. So instead of printing on polyester, which is the traditional way, which is called sublimation printing, that most fabric is printed, you can print on sustainable fabrics like bamboo and cactus leather and silk and hemp and things, and then print just what has been ordered. So we use all this technology so you can have like let's imagine a 3D avatar wearing your garment, and you've never even cut and sewn it yet, and it can be shown in, let's say, 10 different prints and 10 different solid colors. You can put that on your website. You can have that avatar walking the streets of Paris if you want. You can basically take orders for a specific size and a specific print of that garment, and then we will print, cut, and sew just what has been ordered, which is, it's remarkably different than the way the fashion industry works normally. So that's what makes this place so special.
Yeah, I mean, so special. That's incredible. I mean, to be able to like come up with an idea in your head, sit down at a computer and that has this software that allows you to design this thing and actually put it on a thing, an avatar or a real body to see how it's going to fit before you even cut or wasted anything. This is 100% so sustainable, a great concept. Like, oh my gosh, you guys should be, in my opinion, funded over and over and over and over again, because what you're doing is tremendous.
I agree. Where's that funding?
Right. Which reminds me, I wanted to also talk to you about funding, which I thought was just remarkable, Angela. It just made me be like, oh my God, she gets it. So the way, and correct me if I'm saying this wrong, but the way I walked away was basically when you thought about funding, it's not so much that you're looking for charity. You want to build a self-sustainable business where fabric is doing something, creating something, producing something, you're selling it, and you're taking those profits and you're putting it back into the nonprofit. Am I explaining that correctly?
Yes. Well,
genius.
The reason is because when we first started out, we knew that we weren't going to be able to raise funds. We weren't going to be able to qualify for grants or fundraise traditionally the way that nonprofits do, because that takes a full-time employee and a lot of skill and a record of success over years. And so we had to figure out something clever, and we thought, let's earn our own way. And we needed a space big enough to do all this manufacturing, but also we thought if we could rent out an event space, we could actually earn the revenue that we needed to offset the loss of the manufacturing that we're offering. And so we have a space that we rent out that people can have weddings and proms and corporate events and whatever they want. And that earned revenue is really what's fueling the mission of the foundation and all the cool stuff that we're offering the apparel entrepreneurs. That was a well-oiled machine until COVID. And you can imagine that during COVID, we can't rent out an event space. And so
Correct.
full transparency, we've been struggling a lot since COVID. And what we did though during COVID was we turned that event space into a PPE factory. We ended up manufacturing 800,000 reusable medical gowns for the healthcare heroes to keep everybody protected during COVID. They could each be washed 100 times. It kept 80 million disposable gowns from going in the landfill. We invested everything into all this, equipment and skilled labor and everything. We trained all this labor to be able to do this. So we turned our event space into this really amazing factory.
Yeah.
And then when the world opened back up again, everybody started buying the disposable ones from overseas again.
You no longer had a market.
We were kind of left with a whole bunch of equipment and people, and it was really sad. And fabric, we have tons of leftover fabric. So
I saw you're repurposing because you're making like little shopping bags. You're making business cards with it. Like so creative, Angela. Like so creative. It's incredible. Like I'm so glad, first of all, to be able to have the privilege of doing this podcast, and I hope somebody really listens to this and understands how important it is to keep this program going. It's such a win-win for our community. People get to live their dreams, and this is a company that's not asking for charity. You're saying, help us become a sustainable company that can take those profits and throw it back into making people live their dreams and live a purposeful life. Like win-win all the way around.
And that's the thing is we have to figure out a new income generator because the event space isn't really going to continue to be our income generator. We moved recently, and our new building doesn't have a big event space like that. So we're relying on this printer to be that new income generator.
Right.
And we ended up investing in that printer with the proceeds made from the medical gowns. So we took those proceeds, we reinvested them back into all the technology that we now make available to these entrepreneurs, like I said, that isn't even available to big brands. No big brands employ all of these different technologies into an end-to-end, example like we do here. So this is putting all these apparel entrepreneurs at a major advantage over the big brands. Yeah. And so we invested all that into this printer and into the 3D avatar, the CAD software, we even have a digital product passport that allows you to embed all of your brand videos, your content,
it's
all
a
kinds
chip.
of stuff.
It's so cool.
An NFC chip that it's very different than normal NFC chips because you can continuously reach the person who bought your item and keep sending them updates and things. And then the person who bought your item can actually share it on social media and help spread the word for your brand. So there's just some cool tech. And so we invested all of this income that we got from during the COVID, PPE,
you reinvested it back into the
technology. But now we need help. I feel like we have proven that this is a model. We have helped a lot of people. There's been 1,650 apparel entrepreneurs. It's probably more like 1,700 at this point that have gone through all of our programs and resources that have been able to, get into apparel manufacturing. We've donated $12.5 million worth of free and discounted programs and services to the community so that it makes those apparel entrepreneurs experience more affordable, and so that we can educate just the community about sustainable fashion. And now we need the community's help because we need this printer to actually be moving all day, every day, so we can generate the income that it's going to take to keep this place moving and to help us propel into the vision that we have for the future.
Yeah. Well, I think we just need to get the word out there. I am sure that there's an organization or an individual that sees the value that I see. And unfortunately, I'm not a billionaire. I wish I was, because boy, I'll tell you, this is something I absolutely would put my money into because I see the win-win for the community on this one. I love helping make people's dreams come true because people stay out of trouble.
Yes,
when they got something to work toward, they stay out of trouble and they do good things for the community. So it's like there's so many positivity coming out of this.
And it's not even the community alone; it's the globe, because when we are demonstrating that it's possible to domestically manufacture in small batches, and our vision is towards a whole circular economy for the fashion industry, and we've got this working model as a prototype
for to change the industry,
is changing the fashion industry. And the fashion industry is I think it's $2 trillion industry. I mean, every single human on the planet
Well,
wears
we all need
clothes.
clothes.
So it's the one commodity we all use.
Right.
So like, it's not only just helping these apparel entrepreneurs, it's helping the planet.
Yeah, you're literally, the way I see fabric is you're like an Uber. But what you need is help to be seen around the world, because what your concept is amazing and it's solving a huge problem. Now, not everybody in manufacturing business is going to go towards that. Maybe their business can't sustain small batch or, that. But that is a huge solution to a problem that we have on this planet right now. Yeah. And you're sitting on this.
Yes.
And you're needing funding for this to continue this great thing. So I'm just glad that I could put you on somewhat of a platform so you can do that. But with that, two things I want to ask you. Number one is, if I was somebody in the apparel business, let's get back to what the core is, what you do. Yes. If I wanted to get into the apparel business, how could I reach out to you? Now, I know that this is a 503c. I'm saying
501c3.
Thank you. I always forget the one. 501c nonprofit. So not everybody can get your services for free. So some people pay for it, but the majority actually qualify.
Okay. So
explain to me how that works.
You would be surprised, because we have a free membership and apparel entrepreneur membership.
Okay.
A free membership, anybody can get free services. So literally anybody listening right now could go on and get all kinds of benefits by just becoming a free member. First of all, whether you're an apparel entrepreneur or you're just a person who's thrilled about fashion and you want experience and stuff, there's a lot of free stuff. We actually have a free business directory where people can, upload their own listing in the directory. So it's free advertising for a small business. So also, the community can come in and look at all the existing businesses out there and try to, shop from them instead of the big unsustainable ones.
Which I actually found one person I'm shopping from.
Yay! We have a classifieds page so people can post jobs and find jobs. We have an events page where everybody can post their events or find events to attend. All of this is free. We actually have a free sourcing library where an apparel entrepreneur can come in and they can find all the wholesale fabrics and trims that they need to be able to.
Right, and you can't just find that by Googling.
Yeah, that's not easy information. It's very insider information to the industry. You also have to travel to textile shows to even see this stuff.
Right. So this is so valuable there. Just walk into your office in Tempe. There you go.
And then we have free education. We do a thing that you attended called Behind the Scenes. The last Thursday of every month. Anybody can come in and they can learn something. It's always very amazing information. We have, and then great networking. Yeah. We have a $5 consultation every Friday. It's kind of like my office hours, and anybody can join that and ask me anything for $5. I used to pay somebody $300 an hour for that. So it's a really big bonus, and more. There's so much that you can do with a free membership. But what you're talking about is, if you're literally going to start a clothing brand, then you probably should upgrade to the apparel entrepreneur membership, because it actually has a roadmap, and it's literally everything I've ever experienced and known and still continue to learn over my 30 years in the industry that I have uploaded into a software where you can follow my prompts. Say, hey, do this first, do this next, go here for this, go here for that. You need help with this, reach out to us for that, or this person for that, and watch this video. And now you understand this before you do this. I mean, it's got $70,000 worth of resources in it. It's like going to school and majoring in apparel production management, but at your own pace, and you just follow the steps. And then basically when you're stuck, you just either come to my $5 consultation or you pay for somebody to sit down with you and really intensely help you, whatever it is. There's hours of video content, there's documents and contracts, there's step-by-step checklists, there's everything. And that roadmap is our biggest give back to the world. And so normally, if somebody's in the greatest financial position, yes, they would spend money on that monthly. But if they're disadvantaged in any way, if they're a minority, if they're a veteran, if they are a woman, if they are disabled, if they have a significant financial need, they don't have to pay the full price or even anything at all, maybe, depending on what they get as a scholarship. We provide 290 scholarships every year, and so we're giving a lot away for people, because that's the one thing most people, everybody needs. I've literally not met somebody in my 30 years that could get away without this. Like every single person who comes, even if you've majored in fashion or whatever, this is the stuff they don't teach you in school. And so it's that step by step. It's like having me sitting next to you the entire time of your journey, and being able to help you with every single thing. So it's very, very valuable. And basically that's the biggest thing that we are providing as our main service for people, besides that on-demand, tech-based, manufacturing that I was talking about.
Okay, so this leads me to the really one important thing that I want to know.
Yeah.
So you are a fashion designer, award-winning fashion designer. Clearly you were successful in your industry. What in Lord's name made you sit there and say, okay, I want to do all this nonprofit and bring on this headache and go from being super successful, which you still are. I've seen some of your dresses. They're gorgeous. They're jersey.
They're actually upcycled T-shirts.
Upcycled T-shirts. And you make like these beautiful gowns with them.
Ball gowns.
Yeah, they're
and
stunning.
Blazers. Thanks.
Yes, and I'm sure you've done more than that in your fashion. But what I haven't, I've gotten to know about what fabric's all about, but I'm actually curious to see who Angela is. I know you've gotten into the fashion industry, but what made you decide to do this also? So tell me your journey and what led you here.
Awesome. Okay. So I'm from Arizona, 5th generation.
Okay,
I ended up majoring in fashion design in Los Angeles in the 90s.
Okay.
And then I got my foot in the door into my 2 favorite brands, X Large and X Girl.
Okay.
X Large was owned by Mike D of the Beastie Boys.
Okay,
And X Girl was owned by Kim Gordon of Sonic Youth.
Okay.
And I got my foot in the door as a cutter. And the cutter is just the person that's kind of sitting there in the warehouse cutting out samples so that the samples can be sewn up. And then you're editing the pattern, you're cutting out new patterns and new samples. And then I learned a lot by doing that. I learned a lot at school, but then when I was and I went to FIDM, by the way, which was an amazing experience. And when I was on the job.
Is FIDM a fashion school?
It's the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising in LA, which ASU just bought, by the way. It's now called ASU FIDM. So crazy, right? Well, so I ended up getting a ton of experience on the job as a cutter. And then I moved up to assistant designer, then designer, and then production manager at this place.
So you learned a lot right there.
And that production manager position was really what taught me everything that I share with everybody else today. So in that business, it was a kind of a medium-sized business, and they would only make like 500 to 1,000 units of each thing in LA.
Okay.
And it's a very different type of manufacturing when you do that versus 100,000 units overseas, right? So the way that you have to do it when you're manufacturing domestically in small batches is you have to actually contract out each step of the process at a different facility. So you would go have your patterns made here, have them cut here, have samples sewn here, have the patterns sized over here, have production cut here.
That's not efficient, quality control, and not cost effective in any way, all of that.
But it's the only way to get through manufacturing. And so we did that, and that gave me the connections to all of the contractors. It also gave me the knowledge of the whole process. So I took all of that knowledge and I started my own brand. I had a partner who was an actress on the soap opera Days of Our Lives. Her name is Christy Clark, and she played Carrie Brady on Days of Our Lives for like 12 years.
Oh my gosh, so cool.
So we partnered, and we brought in a third partner named Dana Wilson. She did all of the graphics and the branding and marketing. I did all of the design and production management, and Christy was our investor.
Can I ask you a question real quick, just to give us context?
Yes.
What year is this?
This was 1997.
Okay, because that helps me as a tech person understand the technology.
Available? Yeah,
because like when you're saying like graphics, I'm like, okay, I can only imagine what that was like.
Yeah, it was like early stage Adobe Illustrator, right?
Right. Yeah.
So,
yes. So, it was something.
It was hard for her, but basically what we did was we ended up starting a brand called Monkey Wench, and it was girls snow skate and surf apparel because I was a snowboarder, and I had been snowboarding since the late 80s, and there was nothing for me to wear out there because snowboarding it was just new, and there was only guy clothes. Yep. So I was always wearing my boyfriend's stuff and things like that. So I ended up creating this brand of girls snow. It's kind of like Roxy Quicksilver look,
Yeah. Quicksilver, yep.
And so we created this brand. We started out very small. And I had other friends that graduated from school that majored in fashion design that had their own brands, but they were forced to manufacture overseas in giant batches. And then I would watch them quickly go out of business because they had all this excess inventory and all this big expense and all the obstacles. So with me being able to piece out everything in LA, I would go to the pattern maker, and then I'd drive over to the sample sewer, then I'd go pick up my fabrics, and I would drop off my pattern at the grader, then I would pick that up and make sure, quality control, make sure that it was good, then I would drop that off at the cutters, I would fill out grading and marking tickets, cutting tickets. I would make sure the cutters cut everything perfectly. Then I would pick all the cuts up, drop them off at the sewing factories. That hands-on approach is the only way to make small batches. So we were able to make 50 units, and that's unheard of. And so basically it's sample sewing, and the only way we were able to do that is by piecing out each thing. But then the sewing factories would actually do me a favor and sew my 50 units, even though their minimums were like 500 or 2,000, because I was patient enough to wait until they had a break in their manufacturing orders. And so if I could wait like a month until they were done with this big order, then they would start my stuff to keep everybody employed, because what they would normally do is just lay everybody off until the next big order came in.
So this is great. You
so
were smart to do that. Yes.
And helping me, but my stuff was always late.
That was the beginning of your concept, by the way.
It was, and my stuff was always late, but I ended up, at least getting it going. It grew from 50 to 100 to 150 to 200. We started selling worldwide. Our stuff was carried in Japan, in England, all over the United States. We had every celebrity that was hot during that time wearing our stuff. I mean,
really?
Tori Spelling wore it on 90210.
Wow. I mean, Angela, you blew up.
It was awesome. And
it was an awesome time.
It was really cool. I was living my dream. I mean, my business partner was an actress, so she was able to get like every hot actor and actress. Leonardo DiCaprio owned something.
Oh my God.
I mean, like everyone was wearing our stuff. It was in all these magazines. It was so exciting.
So you were creating a niche also, because it sounds like there was pretty much no snowboarding equipment for females.
Yes.
And so you, again, here we go.
Yes.
This is your concept. You see a problem, you want to solve it.
Any business has to do that.
Yeah, but that's you. Like, that's the way you operate, I feel like.
Yes, definitely, because I know there's no way to actually compete with a Forever 21 or a Target.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you have to be different, because you can go there to get something that fits a generic body or that is a generic thing, and they're cute. They do a good design, or whatever, but it's that being able to run a successful business means you're not going to compete with them, because you're not going to make 100,000 pieces overseas. So you have to be different so you can charge more, because it's going to cost more.
Right, exactly.
And so you have to justify why people are spending more, and it's because you have a niche product.
Right. And it sounded like everybody was more than happy to spend money on your product. So I didn't mean to interrupt your flow of like how successful that was. So this was in the 90s. People are buying your products. So you're going from 50 to 100.
Yep. And then I moved back to Arizona to take care of my grandfather when my grandmother passed away. Okay. And this was 2001.
Okay.
And then when I moved back here, I realized I had made a really big mistake. Not that I don't love Arizona. I love it so much. But the mistake was there's no fashion industry here.
There was not.
Yes, there was not. And so basically, it didn't make sense for me to drive to LA every day to move my product from place to place. And I was still doing that. Even at this quantity, it's not until you are making thousands that you can really make enough money to hire a whole bunch of people for your brand. So I was still the production manager, and I can't go back and forth to LA. And if you're not there to watch things, then something could go terribly wrong. And if it does, you're going to be out all this money. And so I knew that wasn't an option for me. I wasn't going to keep doing that and take that risk. And back then we didn't have video chat. So I couldn't like talk to the factory and say, show me this and I need to check it.
Yeah.
So basically I shut it down, and it was the hardest thing I had to do at that point. And then I started teaching instead, because I knew, a whole bunch of stuff about fashion, and I've taught at ASU, I've taught at Mesa Community College, Collins College, Art Institute of Phoenix, New School for the Arts, taught every fashion class you can ever imagine. And during one of the classes, and I was also consulting, and I was teaching, people who wanted to get into the fashion industry, the ropes, everything that I knew. But I was telling them, you're going to have to move to LA if you want to do it. That's why I don't do it from here, So between those two things, what happened was I was teaching at New School for the Arts, and there was a fashion show or an event or something, and I made it was an example for the students to be able to learn how to make something out of not traditional fabrics. And so it's an upcycle project. And as an example, I went to Goodwill, and I gathered a whole bunch of t-shirts, and I repurposed them and created this floor length ball gown. It took 25 t-shirts to make it. And basically it was really cool. And I'm like, I love the juxtaposition of having this like ball gown made out of t-shirts. You know what I mean? Like the two opposites.
Like so comfortable too.
Yeah. So, and you throw in your washing machine and the dryer just like you would a t-shirt. It's pretty cool. So I'm like, okay, I'm onto something here. And I think I want to start my own brand up again. It doesn't require manufacturing, because it's just me cutting and sewing. I'm not needing other people to do it, because there's no way they could. It's a one of a kind piece of art.
Right.
So I can charge a lot for it, because it's going to take me weeks to make it, and it's a one of a kind piece of art.
And you also have credibility at this point, I'm assuming.
Well, I mean, maybe, but I I really think that it's more about like you're giving somebody something that they are going to covet and cherish because it's a piece of art. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I'm like that, and people would give me their own collection of t-shirts too. So somebody could have a collection of t-shirts from like their favorite band or travels around the world or whatever. Give those to me. I'll create this ball gown for you. And then I started offering it in different lengths, like a knee length and a mini, then a blazer. And that became my bread and butter while I was teaching. So I taught and I designed these for about 15 years. And at the same time, I was putting them on runways all around the valley and creating these fashion shows so that these other apparel entrepreneurs that I was meeting and these students could have a platform.
So you're just trying to help without even like, you're just doing it naturally because you're meeting these students, you're wanting to help them, you come up with an idea of like, this might bridge that gap.
Yes, yeah. So I'd be asked to do a fashion show somewhere and I would be like, well, I'm always the type of person that wants to share and so share opportunities with people. And I just feel like that's the way the world should work. So I would say, I'd love to do it, but I have a whole bunch of friends that make cool stuff too. So I'm bringing them in. I would bring in all these students and these designers and we would we started out at the Scottsdale Museum of Contemporary Arts, creating these quarterly fashion shows called Smoke-A Nights. They were sold out. They were a really cool platform, and I would bring in 10 different designers and we would each put 10 looks on the runway, and that basically became this really cool thing that grew this community. And then eventually we were doing all these fashion shows everywhere, and then I realized, oh my God, I kind of created a monster because now people think there's a fashion industry in Arizona. Because suddenly there was all these fashion weeks. Everybody jumped on the bandwagon and we had all these different fashion weeks pop up. I mean, Arizona has like, you wouldn't believe it, like 6 fashion weeks.
Yeah, I don't even know when. I don't even know when they are.
They're all over the calendar. And
they're very popular.
They're very popular. But to me, it was like, okay, if you're going to put your stuff, if you're going to spend thousands of dollars to be on a runway somewhere, which I have to say, first of all, I don't charge $1,000 to be on any runway I put together. That's another thing. Fabric is free to participate in our events or under $100. So first of all, if you're going to spend thousands of dollars to be on a Fashion Week runway or something like that, you better get a good ROI for that. So if your ROI is that you get a bunch of great pictures, I don't know. You better be getting orders, right? So if you get orders, you should be able to manufacture those orders. And if you can't manufacture those orders, then the whole thing breaks. The whole system breaks. So I'm like, okay, now I need to create the facility to provide the resources to manufacture the products because I just created a monster and I feel like
because they're getting business, but they can't fill the orders.
Yes, exactly.
And so that's how you came up with fabric.
Yes. So in 2016, I put it out there to the universe, and I ended up re-meeting my co-founder Sherry Berry. She actually was one of the designers that I had been working with. I had been consulting with her and helping her understand the whole production management process. I had sent her to Los Angeles to manufacture her stuff, and because she wasn't there and there was no video chat, her pattern files accidentally got converted from inches to centimeters when they went from the grading and marking company, which is the company that sizes your pattern, to the actual cutting company. So the cutting company cut everything in miniature versions of all of her clothes, and then they sent everything over to the sewing factory, who sewed everything in miniature versions of all of her clothes. Then everything got shipped to her, $30,000 worth of merchandise.
That's worthless.
That looks like it fits babies instead of adult women, and she couldn't sell any of it. And this is really an important point because Sherry is she's the most put together person when it comes to this. If anybody could do it, it should have been her. She used to run 300 retail stores. She has her MBA from ASU. She used to be the marketing director for the Arizona Science Center. She's a legal, analytical left brain, savant. She writes all of our contracts, things like that. She's got everything going for her, and she understood the process. And if it didn't turn out okay for her, who's it going to turn out okay for? Right.
I get it.
So we were like the perfect match because I'm not that left brain. I mean, I'm a little bit in the middle, but I'm more of that creative community builder. I understand the production process, and I had spent 15 years building this need here in Arizona. She's that left brain and the investment money that was needed to create fabric.
She takes you up. She brings you up to a higher place.
Yes.
Like you've got the idea, you got the concept.
Great
but
yin
then,
and yang going.
Yeah.
So we together approached the city of Tempe, and we proposed this idea for a fashion incubator, a nonprofit that could provide all the resources under one roof. And we said, said, do you have any assistance for us to be able to do this in your city? They happen to have a building they were willing to let us use,
that's
so we
great.
didn't have to pay a rent.
Thank you, City of Tempe.
Yay, we love City of Tempe. And then in order to earn our stay in there, we made a use agreement with the city. So instead of paying a rent, we actually provide free and discounted programs and services to the community. We document it and we report it to City Council. To this date, we have reported $12.5 million worth of free and discounted programs and services. So all those scholarships, all those free resources have been documented and reported, and that's how we earned our stay in the building since 2016.
That's wonderful.
So that's our story.
Well, it's a great story. And Angela, normally normally my podcast, I try to keep it to 20 minutes because, usually I'm like, nobody's going to be that interested. We've just recorded a 35-minute podcast, and I personally had no idea that we talked for that long.
I know, me neither.
Because it was that engaging. It was that interesting. And it just gets me goosebumps because I just believe so passionately about what you guys are doing. So I'm so glad that you took time out of your very, very busy day, and you've spent time with me twice now. So I appreciate you doing that, and I appreciate the things you're doing for this community. And I hope that we get the opportunity for you and Sherry to continue doing the work that you guys do.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to give us the platform to be able to share all of this. Thank you so much. If anybody is listening and they want to want to support this in any way, our website is filled with everything.
Okay.
And if you go to the main page of the website, there's a donate button if you just want to donate.
Okay.
You also could be a sponsor. We have a lot of different levels of sponsorships. If you want to support an entrepreneur going through the roadmap, if you want to support a class that we offer and put it under your business name or something like that, say, hey, this is presented by me and I'm allowing all these people to learn something for free. There's a lot of opportunities like that.
There is. Well, what we need to find is a really wealthy person in the Valley that
who wants to leave a legacy.
Right. Who wants to do something purposeful in this community.
Yes.
Here's your opportunity.
Yes.
Show up. So I will have all of your information on my blog where people can easily get a hold of you. You guys know it. It's smartshopperdaphne.com. And I'm going to go ahead and tag out. Don't forget, thanks for listening. I'll see you next week with another episode of Smart Living, and have a fantastic week, and don't spend your money too much. Don't forget, I'm Daphne Monroe, your smart shopper.